We're talking about your average couple, stay-at-home mum, husband who worked with his best friend down the quarry. But then I realised, yep, no, that is the Flintstones, and this isn't Betty and Barney Rubble. This is Betty and Barney Hill.
Boo Foons, mystery investigators.
Welcome to the Boo Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve.
And today we are talking about aliens.
Invasive illegal aliens.
Yes, aliens, which, is more your sort of thing. You're the one that likes aliens and tends to know lots of stuff. But you and editor Dave both told me about this story. And I've actually gone out and done loads of research because I would admit I'd never heard this story before.
Yeah, I was really surprised you never heard about this because it is such a famous story. It was pretty much the one that really started aliens. I know there was Roswell before this, but this one was the one that was so big and it influenced a lot of UFO lore ever since. And it started off here.
And the more I've read into it, the more I've gone, wow, how have I never seen or heard this one before? Because, as you said, I have heard bits of it through TV, film and popular media, but not actually the story.
Yeah, I was just going to say there is actually a feature film on this, which you haven't seen yet, and it starred James L. Jones. And it's not Star Wars.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I interrupt you. So who are we talking about today, Dan? I'm just going to test you now.
Betty and Barney Hill.
And I did look it up, actually. Betty and Barney Hill happened 5 years after the Flintstones premiered. So they were Betty and Barney Rubble were not inspired by Betty and Barney Hill. It was just a common name combination back in the day. So it's purely a coincidence that Betty and Barney Rubble exist in the same sort of time period era. But they are not related. So we can forget about that, disappointingly.
Especially if we start talking about his friend Fred and Pebbles and Bam Bam and
Bam Bam, yes, that's right. Actually, saying about Bam Bam, there is a link between that then. Betty and Barney Hill's granddaughter was the first black MMA fighter to be signed, female. And she has been a professional MMA fighter at the top of her game for the last 12 years. Okay. So they did have a Bam Bam, not a son, but a granddaughter.
So is that her wrestling name then?
Bam Bam. I don't know what I've done. I can't remember what it is now. I've got to actually look into that.
You just said Bam Bam, and here's the link. So
Bam Bam was famous because Bam Bam was famous because he kept hitting things.
Right,
and that's what she does.
So that's the link that you're making.
They've got a child on Offspring which beats people up. There we go.
I was waiting for you to go, link. And her stage name when she's in the ring is Bam Bam. That's what I was waiting for. Yeah,
I think it's Stargirl. She's an alien-human hybrid, as we're going to find out. So what did you find out? That's about all my knowledge goes about this.
Okay. Well, I guess let's start with the night of 19th of September 1961. The mountains are quiet in the way that mountains are. The kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. It is the 19th of September 1961. The time, 10:30 p.m. Betty Hill watches a bright light dance across the sky. Not fall, not drift. Dance. I wonder what type of dance it was doing. Was it doing like a cha-cha or something?
Yeah. I do like the way you're doing that. It's very atmospheric.
Yeah. Well, I thought, let's up our game for this one, and let's
get some special effects, some sound effects in there. Get some crickets. Yeah, that's right. Little sound of a car engine going. Hints for Dave.
Barney, ever the pragmatist, mutters something like, "It's probably a satellite," which is 1961 code for "I'm trying not to freak out." But the light keeps following them. They pull over near a picnic area. Betty lifts the binoculars. The light is now a craft, spinning, glowing, changing colours like a disco ball. Barney takes the binoculars. He sees figures standing in the windows. They're wearing uniforms. They're moving with purpose. He steps out of the car, gun in his pocket. There's nothing really... Well, it's, good bit of diplomacy there.
Are you sure
let's
there
have
was
a
a gun in
gun.
his pocket, or was he just happy to see them?
I was thinking more of the thing of, let's welcome our visitors by, just threatening them with a gun. That's what I was more thinking of.
Hey, it's the American way.
It is the American way. The craft drops lower. A ramp begins to descend. A voice not spoken, but felt, fills Barney's mind, saying, "Stay where you are and keep looking." He does the opposite and runs. A series of electronic beeps vibrates through the car. A tingling sensation spread across their bodies. The world folds in on itself. Then, nothing. They wake up 35 miles down the road. Their watches have stopped. Their shoes are scuffed. Betty's dress is torn. 2 hours of their life is missing. And not a single memory of how they got there.
Yep, so this was like the first proper alien abduction that was recorded, with things like missing time, watches stopping working, actually abductions, and especially a shared experience. So that was something that never really happened before. So up until here, there was very rare any kind of abduction stories. It was all about sightings and crashed aliens, but this is like one of the first. We don't know what happened to us. Something happened to us. We saw something strange. We don't know anything. Luckily, regression hypnotherapy had just sort of come on the scene, which was lucky for us.
Yeah, and of course we've heard about that before with it was the Todd Morden case, where Alan
Godfrey,
he had it as well. And these two people, Betty and Barney, they weren't just like hillbillies. They were actually quite respected in their communities.
She was a social worker, if I remember rightly, and he was a postal worker. They both had respectable jobs. They were members of the civil rights movement because they were a mixed race couple.
Yes.
And that, of course, in a lot of states in America at that time, it was still illegal to be a mixed race couple. So they had to deal with a lot of pressure in their everyday life just to be accepted.
Yeah.
To come out with a story like this and make themselves publicly known was quite a risk. You're not going to do it just for shits and giggles.
And they were both very active within the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People, which is, as you said, American civil rights group. But they were both highly active in that, very well respected people within that community as well. And as you said, they were both professionals. So they actually had reputations that they had to protect. And therefore, it wasn't a case of we're just random people that are drunkards that have just seen something where we've gone, oh, that's a bit weird. These are actual intelligent people where, yes, as you said, they had a lot to lose on revealing this story.
And they had nothing to gain because, and I know this is a bit of a jump into the future, but they never sold their stories or wrote books. They never financially gained from this. Whereas a lot of people in sightings that came afterwards, they wrote books, they sold rights to films. It was a big money-making industry for some people to tell everybody the alien abduction story. I think it was the same with Alan Godfrey we were talking about over here.
Yes.
His first book, which I now have over here, wasn't written until recently. He'd gone 30 years without profiting at all. And you kind of believe adds a lot more credibility when somebody isn't profiting.
100%. I definitely do agree with you on that. That if you've seen an alien and then suddenly a week or so later you're selling a book, there's a movie, there's a TV show coming out all about you, then you probably didn't actually see the alien, did you? It's a bit like a certain British family who went on holiday to Portugal and very quickly started profiting on the loss of their daughter and started making a lot of money on that. It all sounds very suspicious.
This section has been cut for legal purposes.
Yeah, and
yes,
obviously,
back to the story.
And during this time, it's height of the Cold War, so everybody is nervously looking at the sky. You've got the space race happening, which, yes, again, people are now thinking there might be aliens out there because we're now going to space. So there are probably craft out there.
There were a lot of feature films lots of
There are a lot of
alien
feature films.
invasion, end of the world, feature films going on. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
But of course, that was all big due to the Cold War. So that was, the aliens were represented in Russia.
Yeah.
That was all about.
And there are UFO sightings potentially around because people are hearing radar blips. There's military reports of them, newspaper columns being written about them. The CIA routinely archiving UFO stuff to track public sentiment and also using it to help with foreign propaganda, as you said. So there was a lot of things going on at the time of this happening where people are looking out for weird things. So that's sort of obviously a bit of context there as well of there are people looking up. So they would have been looking up. A weird light that they saw would have made them stop in their tracks because they're suddenly going to think, what is that? What are the Russians doing now? Is probably what they were thinking at the time. They didn't expect to see a weird craft with aliens looking back at them.
Yeah, especially this lot taking you away for a couple of hours. It's weird though. I like the fact that they found themselves 35 miles away. So
Yeah.
why did they just not find themselves where... I mean, if I was... I shouldn't say that. I was going to say, if I was going to kidnap somebody, I wouldn't... maybe I would drop them 35 miles away rather than dropping them where I picked them up. Maybe it's a bad example. I'll keep out. I won't carry that one on.
And to the courts that are now listening to this, hi!
And I've never kidnapped anybody that hasn't been found.
But the thing is with the whole, you said about kidnapping, the thing that is interesting with this story is in 1961, this is the very first story of aliens abducting, because a lot of the abduction. A lot of the abduction stories tend to be more 70s, 80s alien stories. So this is one of the very early ones, because at this point, we've got people seeing UFOs and reporting that they're seeing UFOs, but nobody has said aliens have come and taken me away.
Yep.
So for Betty and Barney Hill to suddenly, have this story around them of them being taken away, and it did end up having templates which we now see in TV shows, in films, and also in other stories where these were humanoid beings, there was telepathic communication, and there was missing time. None of those had been linked to an alien or a UFO story until Betty and Barney Hill, which makes it again even more believable, because if other ones later on followed that template and that model and nothing had done before then that then also suggests that something must have happened to them for them to say this happened.
I mean, the most fascinating, well, not fascinating, the biggest example of it being the template for all following alien abduction stories and everything else is their description of the aliens. They describe the aliens as being 4 to 5 foot tall, grey skin colour, large hairless heads, elongated heads, huge slanted eyes. They're basically the grey aliens we know today. They were the first to describe them. They had no ears, barely no nose, thin bodies. This is what the grey aliens were. This was the first example of an abduction by grey aliens, which now everybody will think of this is what aliens look like.
Yeah,
and it's Betty and Barney Hill that did this.
Within the hypnotic regressions that the audio tracks are out there, Barney does say as part of it, "Those eyes, they're in my brain." So he can distinctly remember the greys and the slanted eyes, those slanted big eyes that the greys are depicted as having. So that was a big thing that he remembers the most of.
And the thing about the regression therapy, we haven't really touched on that, but again, it was quite a new thing at the time. Both Betty and Barney Hill were hypnotized separately from each other. They weren't in the same room. They weren't, able to tell, listen to what the other one was saying. But they both described the same events. It was the same story. Betty, she actually drew a star map that she saw as a map on the spaceship. And it was a star system that was unknown at the time. But in the 70s, it matched the Zeta Reticuli system.
Wow.
Which actually exists. So researchers actually said, 10 years down the line, they actually found a star system which matched what star map she drew. So she drew it, and it's known as the Zeta Reticuli system, which is why a lot of the grey aliens are known as reticulans. That's because that's where we think they come from, because of this. So both Betty and Barney had the same hypnotherapy. They both came up with the same story of the abduction. Their stories were the same, basically.
Confirmed,
Project Blue Book got involved. Men in Black turned up to interview them to ask them to stop talking about their stories. They didn't write books. They both suffered from sleep deprivation. They both suffered from stress, PTSD, all sorts of things. Barney Hill couldn't sleep. It stopped him working properly because he was under so much stress. Whereas apparently Betty, they say, wanted to find out more all the time. So she was the one who went for the hypnotherapy. She was the one who kept pushing. She wanted to know more, whereas Barney didn't want to know more. He was scared by the whole thing. Neither of them actually mentioned being probed, funny enough. Because for me, that would be number one on the list.
It's not necessarily probed, but there are accounts of Betty talking about a medical examination. So it wasn't probe as such. Apparently there was hair samples taken, nail clippings done, skin scrapings. They had needles in their limbs and their head, and a needle was put into Betty's abdomen, which she thought was some form of pregnancy test. So it's not probing as such as what we tend to see in the films, but they did have needles put into them. When they did the hypnotherapy regression, that's what they could remember. However, that being said, there isn't any written evidence to suggest that they actually had marks in her abdomen or their limbs or their head that would suggest a needle actually going in. So there were no actual needle marks. Like when you go for a blood test, you always have a little dot on your arm, don't you? Or if you have an injection or something. But they didn't have those. However, Betty could remember that.
I guess probing was a lot less acceptable back then as well. So maybe they wouldn't have mentioned the traditional probing.
No.
Not in Polite Company anyway. There's a lot of things here, which makes it a very interesting story. I mean, we can then break down what people now think afterwards. There's always the skeptics who will say nothing happened, it's the easiest way. It's so much nicer than thinking, yep, we can be abducted at any time, have experiments done on us, then lose time and just not know. But actually, there was more physical evidence, wasn't there?
Yes, well, I was going to go back to, you said about the greys. This is much later. Somebody has highlighted within research back to looking at the Hills and looking at their case that 12 days before Barney's hypnosis session, there was an episode of The Outer Limits, which did feature an alien with the eyes, with a line that said eyes that speak, which they can't confirm whether Barney did actually watch that or not. However, it does seem quite suspicious that a few days before he went, there was a TV show that was aired and it did have an alien featured in it, which is very similar to the description that Barney gave, and did have a similar line in that episode to what he said about the eyes that speak.
See, I'm quite happy to discredit that, though, because only a few people would have known about the hypnotherapy or the regression therapy. There was no video recordings at the time. People weren't able to record TV shows, and it is possible that was just for somebody later on linked the two, even though it may not even have been out at the same time. It may not have been on the same network. There's so many different variables there. It may well have been just somebody saying it doesn't exist. This is what I'm saying about people just trying to debunk everything. And no, he just watched on TV. Regression therapy is supposed to unlock actual things that you remember. You go back in time. He would have said, yeah, that was on TV. He wouldn't have lied intentionally if the regression therapy was working, hypnotherapy was working, because that's the whole idea of it, is that people tell the truth. Unless, of course, we're saying that he didn't get hypnotized and he was conscious the whole time, making up the story.
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows? But again, why? Why would he make it up? Why would they make it up? I did notice, well, there were...
You see, this is why I love the podcast when we do alien episodes, because normally we'll be sitting here talking about something, whether it's a ghost sighting, a folklore story, whatever, and you'll sit there and go, oh, it's all rubbish.
Boobs.
It's all total rubbish. It's not real. It didn't happen. It definitely didn't happen. And there'll be something like that comes up, and you'll go... Yes, that's proof that it's absolute rubbish. However, every time we do aliens, you're very much the complete opposite of this is 100% real. It definitely did happen.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
And then you'll look at, then you'll see something like that, and you'll go, "See, that's just people trying to discredit it. It did happen. It did happen."
Well,
And that's
a
what I
lot
love
easier
about doing the Alien episodes, because it's the complete reversal to what normally happens when we're talking about a case.
But there's the difference. There is a big difference between these. The difference
Oh,
is with a lot of these alien cases, there is evidence of some kind left behind. Whereas a lot
yeah,
of the stories we're talking when we about cryptids, when we're talking about ghosts or legends, there's nothing. There's no physical evidence. It's just a story that's been told. But
yeah,
here we got torn dresses, stopped watches. Their car that had circular marks, which cited as a physical proof of an alien abduction. But of course, at the time, were not scientifically tested because nobody had even thought about it because it was the first one. There were so many different things here which actually point to something happened.
yeah,
What that was, it could be like the X-Files used to do, is often, government kidnapping people, to do tests on them. It doesn't mean it has to be aliens. There's evidence that something happened. But for example, with the Japanese only, it's stories. There's zero physical evidence. There's just
yes.
drawings and stories. So that's why, that's all. I mean, things like the star map as well she drew. Now I'm going to put the other hat on. So people have thought that the actual regression therapy was basically a shared delusion between the two of them. Barney had false memories because Betty was so excited about the whole thing. She would talk about it in great detail with him, which may have counted for his stress because he might be stressed thinking his wife was going a bit mad. But he had heard all these things and she had been going on for ages about it, apparently. It's quite likely that he may have absorbed some of this delusion, if it was a delusion. And when he had his therapy, he was pulling out the same facts that he had heard time and time again by his overexcited wife. So that could have been it. They think that maybe that's a reason why that everything was the same as far as the therapy goes. They were also,
And
apparently, it was a long drive they were on.
yeah,
That
well, I was
their
just
drive
going
was
to,
very long and very tired.
well, on hypnotic regression, modern psychiatrists and psychoanalysts and everything says that research has shown that actually hypnotic regression is not at all reliable
It's
for
not
memory
a
recovery.
science, is it?
That what they've actually came to find through studying the brain and things when people go through hypnotic regression, that it's actually memory creation under suggestion.
Yep.
So it's
And
not
we
actually
saw
trying to recover memory. They're actually thinking that it's people throwing out little bits of suggestion of what did you see, and then they're creating new memories based on other pieces of information that they may know. So it could be, like you said, they've been talking about it since it happened, and that's probably why they've got the same story because of how that went about.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw that there was an island in the UK somewhere, and through regression, the experts worked out that all the kids on this island or this place were all victims of Satanism. So this is going back, I think it was the 80s, 70s or 80s, but they used regression therapy. And it wasn't, it was just it was kids playing around them, people putting ideas in their heads. And a lot of regression therapy, of course, how many people are Cleopatra when they have regression therapy? Everybody's bloody Cleopatra. Or has been Cleopatra in past lives through regression therapy. So again, totally you can disregard it. It's not a science. If it wasn't for Darren Brown absolutely convincing people one A, B, or C is real just by talking to them, I wouldn't even believe in hypnotherapy, but it does exist. The power of suggestion in the right way works, and this could have been that.
Very much so.
And it could have been because, we're talking here in the 60s. We got the Korean Wars just finished, the Vietnam War's just about starting. People are expecting all that stress again, a war, the space race. We got lights in the sky because America's trying out new aircraft that no one's ever seen. There's so many experimental aircraft back in the 60s, which are ridiculous, which we would never imagine even today that they tried. So they could have quite easily seen something like that in the middle of the desert. Could be all sorts of things. At the end, we have no physical evidence, just their story.
Yeah, and you were saying earlier, before I interrupted you, you said about the driving, that they were on a long drive. It's dark mountain roads. They've already been on a long trip. They would have been exhausted. And people do that thing when they're driving where you do go into autopilot, where you're just paying attention to what's in front of you, and your brain will start to fill in gaps, and your brains do fill in gaps when people are tired and overwhelmed. That's partly the reason why on ghost hunts and things late at night people start to see weird things, because They're trying to fill in gaps in the darkness that they can't see. They're tired, and probably why, the dark man that's in the corner of bedrooms that everyone sees with the hat is probably why that ghostly figure exists, because it's always at night time that that's seen.
I'm going to make another suggestion, one I haven't read anywhere, which it sort of contradicts what I said earlier on. When I said, what have they got to gain from this? They were a mixed race couple in the 1960s where it wasn't accepted to be mixed race. Well, as a matter of fact, it was a crime in a lot of states still at that point in the 60s.
Yeah.
What they did, they brought awareness of the fact they were a couple who were a victim to something and that they were strong together. And it's like, we do exist as a couple. So they could have quite easily used it as what to gain is you're showing people that you're together and you're united and you're strong. And even alien abduction can't break you up.
Yeah.
It could be something to get rid of the absolute negativity around race back in the 60s in the US. Yeah. But I haven't seen that actually suggested anywhere. But I think that could be a smart way to get people to accept people.
Could be. And then that would link into the fact of trauma also causes memories in certain ways, don't they? Because they would have had anxiety anyway.
A lot of trauma.
They would have had psychological stresses on them all the time because of the nature of their relationship. And then on top of that, they were tired. So they would have probably have had nightmares. And I know for a fact that when I'm stressed and overwhelmed about something, that I'm more likely to have a nightmare and wake up in the middle of the night and try and figure out what's happened. So maybe that's a thing that's been happening in their lives. And this abduction gives all of those feelings a container, a nice... We've had guests talk about putting things in little boxes and neat little boxes. And this whole story does put all of those feelings into a little box of, I'm only feeling this way because we were abducted, because we were taken away, because of the aliens. This is why I have these negative feelings. And it does give them that nice little bow package of, this is why.
There is another possibility, of course. Another possibility is, yes, maybe they weren't abducted this time, but maybe it was a government thing to help start the slow pathway to disclosure that's going to happen one day. If this is real, if there really are aliens, if they do exist, if they do look like Greys, what you do is, okay, we're going to start this in the 60s. How are we going to do it? We're going to kidnap some people, hypnotize them so they're convinced this is real. They're going to start talking about these things, and we'll slowly introduce it into the culture. So when it happens, when disclosure happens, and it's like, yes, there are aliens, we've been working with them for years, publicly, here they are. It's like, we know, we've been speaking about it for the last 50 years, 60 years. That's another possibility. This could have been the steps, because that's a way I'd rather want to think about it than this was just made up. Because if it is, grey aliens are made up, because this is the foundation of alien abductions and sightings ever since. And if we take this away, then everything else falls down.
Which that's quite interesting, because when you think about their encounter, they did report it not long after to the government and to the Air Force. The Air Force did log it, and it was all logged and catalogued in the CIA documents. And they did do all of that. And then the Hills were also interviewed by NICAP, which is the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, which was the prominent US civilian UFO research organization. So that was active from the 50s to the 80s. And they were interviewed for 6 hours by this committee, this organization that like aliens. So the story did start to spread quietly around all the investigators. And then it was 1965, so 4 years after this happened, when the Boston Traveler splashed this whole story on the front page without the consent of the Hills. And that's where everybody then started to jump on the story. So it's 4 years later when everyone starts being aware of this story of, this is a weird thing. Oh, yeah. But then by that, we've now got more alien stories out there. And in the year after that, so 1966, The Interrupted Journey then becomes a bestseller. So there are certain things that then start to make you go,
The book, The Interrupted Journey, they collaborated with an author, but apparently they only received a modest payment, but it wasn't very much money. The author and the publisher made the profits from the royalties. The 1975, the UFO incident, the James Earl Jones film, They did license their stories, but again, it wasn't enough to even benefit their financial situation. And both Betty and Barney continued with their day jobs for their entire career. They couldn't afford to retire on it, so they didn't make enough money to actually pack in their jobs. They didn't go do any lecture circuits, and they didn't monetize in any other way. It didn't change their lifestyle. They both carried on working.
Yeah.
He didn't live much longer. He died quite young, if I remember rightly. I can't remember how old he was, but I know that Betty died in, I think it's 2004. Yeah. So it didn't change their lives in any way. I mean, they obviously saw there was a huge change as far as racial tolerance in America.
Yeah.
So, they were definitely, I guess, celebrities in their own right.
Yeah, I've got it here. Barney died in 1969 at the age of 46. And as you said, she died 2004 at the age of 85.
Yeah. But it's funny because they didn't want the story to go public. It was leaked without their permission. So they didn't seek anything. Even the licensing and the payment for the book, they didn't even seek that. It was leaked by newspapers.
Yeah.
But basically, their behavior was very inconsistent with hoaxers.
Yeah,
They
so it
never
is.
profited really from it at all.
No, but the thing that I like about this is how it has led to lots of other encounters having similar things. So is it a case of this is the standard that aliens do? Or have other people been aware of this and this is what they've copied to then make it sound like... So assuming Betty and Barney did get abducted, have other people who have wanted to profit gone... So that's what happened to me. All of these things happened to me.
It became the template for everything in the X-Files.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a template for Close Encounters of the Third Kind that Spielberg made. It was, everything that we now know. This is ground zero.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Overkill, not Bam Bam.
Okay.
Angela Hill, the granddaughter, UFC fighter, the first African-American woman to fight in the UFC, and her name is Overkill. She's still fighting today. That was it. And even she says she never really spoke to her grandparents about it, but she knows that they didn't make anything up as far as she was concerned. Everybody in the family just thought this is just what happened. She never at any point has said that they made this up. And she's still fighting even today. She's getting on a bit. I think this is alien DNA in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Dan? Do you think alien abduction? Do you think government abduction to help with disclosure? Do you think it was done to forward the civil rights movement? Do you think it was just a delusion? Because when it comes down to it, they're the only things we got to think about here.
You see, for me, yes, I do think aliens are real. I think it would be arrogant of us as humans to say we are the only intelligent life out there. And when you look,
come on now.
Well, we're getting.
I'm speaking for myself. I know. I'm sorry. Yeah.
As a species, we're getting stupider. All the advancements of clever technologies have made the general population idiots.
Yeah. We're not including our listeners, because our listeners are the smart ones.
Yeah, apart from our listeners, they're amazing. But anyway,
love you guys.
For me, there's a stupid amount of stars out there. There's loads of planets around those stars. There's got to be some form of alien life out there.
Or interdimensional.
However,
interdimensional could be anything.
The bit that I do struggle with is if aliens have visited us, why haven't they come back? And why are they only abducting a couple of people and then bringing them back and then going on their way? And why is there a thing? And I don't think it's a governmental conspiracy of let's hide everything. It makes me wonder why isn't there more of it? And for me, being the one out of the two of us that does like folklore and mythology, there's always been stories of humans being taken and being abducted and coming back. Whether it's fairies, angels, spirits, some sort of weird beast, some sort of demon. And then we've got all these stories of things like the Mary Celeste where a whole crew have disappeared. So humans like stories of being taken. It does go back decades, centuries. Humans change, the things that they talk about change. So the being that has done the abduction changes, but the structure of the story always seems to be the same. Somebody or a couple of people who are by themselves have gone out exploring somewhere. They've woken up a couple of hours later. They can't remember what's happened. And then when they then think about it, they remember fairies being there or a demon being there. So for me, I think, is it just that age-old mythic story just coming back again, only it's aliens now, because that's the new thing. I struggle to believe that aliens have probably abducted people, because why and how would they choose the people? Is it random? And also, why does it only happen in America or England?
It doesn't. It happens all over the world. People report being abducted. We just hear about it because it's the English language, English speaking world. That's it. But no, people report being abducted all over, and even more so now in other countries, especially South America. It's this really big thing over there at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is because we don't hear the big stories anymore. Some governments are quite happy to say this is a real phenomenon of some kind. We don't know what it is yet. But other governments who are trying to get more tighter control on things are saying absolutely not. So you hear different things from different governments around the world. Alien abductions are still being reported even up to today. They're still quite common. It's often same people being abducted multiple times. So whether that being a psychological thing or an actual physical thing, we don't know. Alien implants are still being found in people. So that's the thing that's still been going, where they find bits of tech or unidentifiable material inside human bodies. But that could be biological. It could be anything. I mean, I got a bit of pencil leg stuck in my leg. It doesn't mean I've got a alien chip in there. This is still going on. This isn't stopping. But also, everybody thinks that the government is working with aliens. And even whistleblowers from the governments of the world have come out and said, yes, their governments are working with these aliens. And a lot of times the abductions are them experimenting. A lot of abduction cases have reported human military with the aliens working together when they've been abducted. So that's quite common as well. That there isn't just aliens, there's humans there as well. When I was talking about the things we were disproving as far as the story goes, the other thing was the star map. Remember I said about the reticular, or whatever it was, Zeta Reticular star map. Now, years later, well, much more recently, scientists, astronomers have said this star map that she drew actually could fit in with hundreds of different star systems, and they're saying it's pareidolia. They're saying you're just seeing a pattern here and you're seeing a pattern somewhere. So yes, it did match one, but it also matches hundreds of other star systems. So it's just depending on which way you look at it, how the stars are at that time, what an orbit is. So again, they've kind of disregarded that, discredited that bit of evidence in modern times using modern technologies. I still think there's enough questions to not say this is just rubbish.
Yeah.
And also, I think there's still so much going on, which, unless, of course, it's just in our human nature to imagine these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a punishment for being intelligent life forms. We tend to think too heavily on abstract things, and it becomes like this, alien abductions.
I think it's interesting how this is the first one, and it is sort of like the Rosetta Stone of alien abduction stories. So I like the fact that we get the grey aliens, the medical examination happening, the missing time, the telepathic communication, the star map, the UFO encounters, the shuttle that came down, the door sliding open. There is a diagram that was drawn of the spaceship with the little people where it does look a bit like a saucer, but it's got two little flashing red lights either side of it. And the fact that it has influenced quite a lot, like you said earlier, X-Files, Close Encounters, Project Blue Book, documentaries, the whole new age of different alien stories. So I like what it has spawned, that it has created a lot more dialogue around things, that it bridged the gap of people saying that there were UFOs and identifying them to suddenly these are people that have seen an alien, and it then led to other people coming out and saying, yes, I've also seen an alien. So it's interesting how this is the first story that ends up being a template going forward.
Oh, do you know what I'm saying? I just found out as well recently the authorities around the world tend not to use the word aliens anymore when we talk about people from space. They're often referred to now as UAP occupants or non-human intelligence. So they don't like the word aliens anymore.
Okay.
So are we going to start a whole series of UAP occupant stories? Because non-human intelligence could also involve dolphins. And octopus.
They are definitely, they are 100% alien life.
Yeah. This is why I love alien stuff. Sorry, UAP occupant stuff. The possibility of other life forms outside intelligent life forms that can do things that are totally against the laws of physics. There's no reason why any of these folklore stories or religions or ghost stories or anything paranormal or cryptids can't be real. There could always be an answer. Yeah. The Loch Ness Monster was something that was brought down by an alien once just to experiment to see what would happen if you dropped this creature into an environment. Some of those Japanese things we were talking about, they're almost like gods. They've got superpowers.
Yeah.
If you're a primitive people looking at something like, you could say, yes, this is a yoki or something, or a yokai, or, I don't know why you'd want to do that as intelligence. But yeah, it could anything. I mean, it could be even paranormal things. Ghosts could be interdimensional visitors. There's so much.
Yes.
But if we say no, there's no such thing as aliens, UAP occupants, sorry. If there's no intelligent life out there, the possibility of being nothing, and this is it. Our life is what we live now, and we die, and that's it. Everything else we thought about, ghosts, cryptids, artificial intelligence that's going to take over the world, and all this stuff, none of that's real.
It's
boring, isn't it?
It would be boring. However, I do wonder if all of this UAP stuff, whether if they are genuinely visiting us, maybe it is just a boring visit with nothing like this story here that is exciting, because the British government declassified all records referencing UFOs and everything a few years ago, so you can happily.
A lot of it is redacted, and also that Nick Pope, before he died, did say that a lot of stuff had been covered up and would never be even seen the light of day. So that's with people who actually work in there. They only released what they wanted to release. Everything else gets lost. Even today, documents are being lost that are very important for things. Accidentally deleted all the files or not reported them. That's the other thing that's happened recently is the government said there's no such thing as aliens, no such thing as UFOs. We're not going to report them anymore. So there's no point asking for it because we don't do it. And of course, but we know the military would do. The military are collecting information because it's in their interest to know what's out there, even if it is human technology. We know they're collecting information of everything that's been seen, but we're just being told we don't report on it anymore, so don't even ask for it.
And any interesting piece of technology gets stored beneath the Tower of London.
Do they? How far?
I don't know, but it's far down in the Black Archives.
Okay. How do we get a job there?
Well, we need to work for UNIT first.
Oh, UNIT. Okay, those people, don't trust them. As soon as they start putting rocket launchers in wheelchairs, that's just so. That just shows the level of intelligence.
Yeah, ignore the stuff that Russell T Davies did with UNIT.
What you're saying is pick and choose, yeah?
What I'm saying is look at the stuff that Moffat did with her.
I tend to believe, like cryptids, like folklore, it doesn't exist. And clowns, they don't really exist.
Well, I have nothing more sensible or serious about this story to add. Have you got anything else to add?
We might have to do a decent probing story one day, then we could do that. No, but this is an absolute classic. It really is. It's so easy to discredit anything. We can discredit anything. Even when we know it's real, we can discredit it if we really want to. Sometimes it's harder to accept.
True.
And again, open minds, open eye. And I've got open minds because it's too good a story not to be real. It's at least some elements.
Definitely.
I hope people get to watch the Betty and Barney Hill film with James Earl Jones, with Darth Vader himself in, what was it, the UFO incident, 1975. There we go. So, and what we'll do is on the website, we will get some pictures up there, and we will also get links to the regression therapy audio, because we have that as well, which is very interesting. It's worth a listen to for sure. So we'll get that on the website when this episode is released.
And that's
fine.
being
serious.
That was you being serious. And to add on to that, do look at our social media accounts. Do give us a follow, a like on there. Do comment and share the post with your friends and family. And do look at our Patreon for bonus content. There's like the full video of this episode, so the unedited version, where you get to see
even
Steve disappear for a little while.
Yeah, try to get my headphone working again. Yeah. Technology.
Yeah, you get to see the whole thing. But thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Boo Foons Mystery Investigators. Come back Saturday for a silly episode of Off the Case, and return next Wednesday for another mystery. Bye.
Love you.
mystery investigators.